I'm Susan Odell. Welcome to the Foodell Kitchen. Rice, it's a great basic side dish, and once you know how to cook it and so that it doesn't all clump together, you're going to make it a lot and it'll make your cooking easy. We're going to look at some basic rices today, a long grain rice, both brown and white, wild rice, and short grain rice. So these two are both long grain rices. I've got a brown long grain rice and a white long grain rice. White rice is refined. The bran and the germ have been removed from the entire kernel, and so we have a much more quick cooking and a more mild flavored rice. A lot of people prefer the white for its ease of cooking, but the brown is much better for you. It's got a lot more protein and a lot more fiber, and you cook it the exact same way. It just takes a little bit longer. It takes about 45 minutes to cook the brown rice versus 15 for the white rice. Long grain rice you'll find in different varieties: a basmati rice, which comes from the Himalayas, jasmine rice, which is used typically in Thai cooking. You'll see a lot of different varieties, but the long grain rices are all pretty much cooked the same. This is a wild rice, and wild rice is actually a mixture of grasses and brown rice, or some long grain white and brown rice. Again, this takes a little bit longer to cook, more like the 45 to 55 minute range, similar to brown rice, but it's really nutty in flavor and it's a little more complex than your basic rice, so it's worth trying on occasion for a different sort of flavor. And finally, this is a short grain rice. This is an arborio rice. Arborio and carnaroli rices are used in making risotto. And the reason you want to use the short grain rice in making risotto is because it's got a huge, very high starch content. So when you stir and stir and stir, that starch comes out and you get that beautiful creamy texture that you would never get with a long grain rice. We're going to do risotto in a different video, and right now let's just have a look at how to cook your basic long grain white or brown rice. There's always package directions for how to cook rice, but if you don't have a package, sometimes you need a little more direction, and I think this is a better method than what they're going to tell you on the package anyway. So I've got a nice saucepan, and I like a saucepan with a wide top rather than one that's kind of straight up and down. This allows the water to boil better, and it allows the rice to absorb the water in a more even fashion. Got it over about medium heat, and I'm going to add some extra virgin olive oil, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan, just to keep the rice from sticking. Since I'm using a long grain white rice has been refined, it's been milled, it's taken, the bran and the germ are gone, so that means extra starch is involved. I want to rinse my white rice through a fine mesh sieve under cold running water before I add it to my pan. By rinsing off the extra starch that's accumulated on the white rice grains, I'm going to have nice finer grains after it's been cooked. It won't clump together like some rices have a tendency to do. So you can tell that all the excess starch has been removed when the water that comes out of your sieve runs clear. Once your fat, in this case olive oil, is hot, you could also use butter if you prefer. Add your rinsed rice to the pan. It's going to sizzle like that because your rice is wet, so it's the water that's sizzling in the pan. Now you want to stir the rice and make sure that all of the grains are really nicely coated with your olive oil. This is going to protect the rice and each individual grain so that, again, once it's cooked, you'll have those nice grains and it won't be so clumpy and starchy. So once your grains are nicely coated with the oil, add hot water, as hot as you can get it from your tap. And then give it a nice stir, and you want to bring that water to a boil. The general ratio is you use twice as much water as you do rice. So if you have a cup of rice, you'll use 2 cups of water. I also like to add a pinch of salt and pepper at this stage. You can add it later. You can adjust the seasonings later, but adding a little bit now helps to get the seasoning cooked into the rice. I think it makes for a better flavor in the end result. So just give it a little stir until the water comes to a boil. Make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. Once your water starts boiling, give it one more stir. You're going to cover the pan with a tight-fitting lid and turn it all the way down to low. It needs to sit for 15 minutes undisturbed so the water can absorb into the rice, and this is for long grain white rice. Brown rice would take about 45 to 50 minutes with the same method. So check your rice after 15 minutes to see if it's done. Just open up the lid and use a fork to kind of peek in. If you still see some water sitting in the bottom, which I don't, then just cover it back up and cook for another 5 minutes or so. This rice looks done and it is ready to serve. It's nice and dry. So whenever I make rice, I like to make extra rice, or sometimes I just make it in advance. Once it's cooked, if you just take it and pour it onto a baking tray, you want it to cool really quickly and spread it out, and this way it won't clump together. But also, once it's cool, you can freeze it. Just put it in a baggie and freeze it in serving size portions, and then you'll have some rice at the ready next time you want a quick meal. So whenever you're cooking long grain rice, either brown or white, or even wild rice, this is a really good method to use. You're going to get good results, it's going to taste great, and remember, make extra or make it in advance. Bon appetit. I'm Susan Odell, and welcome to the Food Odell Kitchen. You're